Hello, everybody. Good evening. Welcome, everybody, to today's session of the 10K Project. My name is Sheree. We are the largest community of investors who actively fund Black-owned businesses. We also do a lot of masterclasses, all sorts of stuff. But before I get into our announcements, I want to say hello to the beautiful Tawana Rivers. Hello.
Hello, my dear. Hello, family. Hello, ladies, Gwendolyn and Tiffany. Glad to have you with us today.
Yes. And we have two great guests today. It just so happened that I sent the invitations out. I sent them out for the same day, and they both said yes. And I was like, you know what? We're just going to do a double header and just have a really great time tonight. Gwendolyn and her husband bought 244 acres of land. And she's going to talk with us today about the process of them buying that land, because I know a lot of you want to buy land, and what they're going to do with the land, and the various streams of income that they're looking at for that land and things like that. And then Tiff, I actually found her on the Bigger Pockets podcast. If anyone is familiar with that, that is a real estate podcast. And she talked about the fact that she has 8 streams of income. So I was like, well, I got to try to get Tiff on because Tawana is definitely trying to get her streams of income up. And I thought it would be great to have both of them here today for us to talk about money and, land acquisition and streams of income and all sorts of stuff like that. So want to say hello again to everybody. Yes, please put your city and state in the chat. If you are in YouTube or on Facebook or Twitter, please give us a thumbs up. And I am able to see you in YouTube and Facebook, so you can also put your questions in there as well as we speak with our guests tonight. But before I do that, I want to just give you an announcement here about our student housing masterclass that's coming up. You are able to buy, rehab, and rent housing near colleges and universities. We're having 7 guests come over a 4-week period to talk about how to do that. It's going to happen Wednesday, November 30th to Wednesday, December 21st. Don't worry if you can't attend any of these dates. There will be replays in the Knowledge Center for you. What we're going to do is we're going to have 4 sessions. The first session is going to be about how to select a property. And we have 2 great guests coming to talk about that who have experience with property selection. Session 2 is going to be about the do's and don'ts of construction. One of the things that you're able to do is add extra doors and extra bedrooms in houses. And we have 2 general contractors coming to talk about that process. Sorry, 1 general contractor coming to talk about that process. And then the second person coming to talk about how to do the estimates for your construction project. Then on session 3, we have 2 people coming to talk about securing funding. One person is an expert about with regards to no money down. And then the second person knows just a lot of different loan programs as well. And then on the 4th week, we have a property manager coming to talk about how to rent your rooms and cash your checks, get your rental income, things like that. So I'm super excited about these sessions. Registration is now open. I'm going to, once Tawana starts speaking, and then Tiffany and Gwendolyn, I will be sure to put it in the chat so you're able to get the instructions with regards to how to register. But I did want to make sure that everybody knows that we are doing that. Also, if you want to be a member of the 10K Project, I'm going to pass it over to Tawana to talk about membership within the 10K Project, as well as tomorrow's Bet on Black Pitch.
Wonderful. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tawana Rivers. I am the Chief Operating Officer here at the 10K Project. We are so happy to have you here with us this evening. As Sheree stated, if you are interested in membership, please go to our website, the10kproject.com, and learn more about us. But ultimately, we are a community of investors. We also share and believe in sharing an abundance of information on financial literacy and wealth building. And so one of the ways we do that is by showing love to Black founders. We are a community of investors who are purposely trying to build our wealth, and we want to do that by intentionally investing Black. And one of the ways that we do that is we host these Bet on Black pitch sessions for our members, where we bring a Black founder every Tuesday evening in front of the community in a closed environment. So it's a member-only benefit. And they pitch to us their equity crowdfunding campaign, tell us all about their project. And individually, as an investor, you determine if this project fits in your portfolio. And if it does, you invest. If it doesn't, you keep coming back because we bring somebody new every Tuesday, right? And so if one doesn't interest you, you are bound within the course of a couple of months to find something where you say to yourself, that's the one, right? If I only have $500 to invest this month, this is where I want to put it. And I can guarantee you that we are bringing Black excellence to the table every single week. And so to help you support your investment habit that you will acquire, we also teach you how to do other things, right? So we bring amazing people to you like Tiffany and Brenzalyn to talk to you about how you can have other streams of income and how you can invest in other things that will appreciate and allow you to have additional disposable income. So again, the10kproject.com is the website. This week on the Bet on Black pitch, so if you enroll and join us tonight, you'll be able to come to tomorrow's pitch. We actually have an energy company tomorrow. So we don't tell you the company name that's coming in advance because we want you to be wowed when you see them and hear them, but we tell you a little teaser about it. So this week's teaser is that they are an energy company, a Black-owned energy company. So super, super excited. We don't have an energy company in our 10K portfolio yet. And so this is a first for us. So super excited to introduce a new industry to the community. All right.
Great, everybody. So again, the10kproject.com if you want to be a part of the Bet on Black pitch. Also, every Monday and Thursday, we send out a newsletter around noon, and that has all of the open campaigns of the Bet on Black pitch founders that have come in the past. So you're able to basically start today, hear a whole bunch of Bet on Black pitches, and start building your portfolio with the campaigns that are still open. And you can give your family members the gift of equity for Christmas as well. So think about that. Think about how you can, if you choose to, bless another founder or a founder and their campaign over the holiday season. Okay, let's get started. Put a 1 in the chat if you would like to learn about real estate, buying raw land, building it up, multiple streams of income with regards to that. The ones are already coming in. Well, Brendalyn, I met through Arlen Hamilton, believe it or not, one of our Bet on Black founders. Brendalyn has worked with Arlen. And, she was running a book club, and she had mentioned the fact that she had bought this property, 244 acres. And I thought, wow, we've got to definitely have you come. So it turns out that these acres are in Lake Placid, Missouri, and she bought it with her husband. She is also a hemp farmer and an executive coach who works to break Black people free from generational poverty. So that's what she's here to discuss today. That is right up our alley. Yes, we're going to toss it over to you, Brendalyn. Why don't you take like 7 or 8 minutes? Tell us about yourself, how you came, upon this land, and anything else that you want to share with the family.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Brendalyn King here in St. Louis right now. Our project is about 3 hours away, which is actually what I wanted to start off with, is that if you are someone who has land in your family, or you have a plot of land, and you're not living there yet, I am in that position. And so I'm really speaking to those of you who may be in transition, like I am, moving out to your property. And so I've got a few slides here, Cherie. Is that okay that I kind of just share these quick slides here?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Are you seeing transformative poverty mindset?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, everyone. So the link to our website is in the chat, but let's just take a quick journey through. So as someone who kind of grew up, socialized into this capitalistic, more is better, more better, faster world, when I came upon the idea of purchasing land, I started to naturally feel myself slow down. I felt myself naturally wanting to get out of the race of, getting ahead, being the only one by myself. And so the first thing I tell people is go beyond what you can see. All of it is risky. It's anything that's outside of your comfort zone is called risk, even if you know somebody who's done it before. And so really, this is part of the unlearning process of understanding that it's all going to be risky. And if you are someone who has a hard time with that, then I'd offer you a dose of humility and remind yourself that you don't know where your journey is going to take you. You don't know what purpose that is going to lead you. And so I am someone who was living in Brooklyn, New York, who got the bite of hemp, who, kind of the plant kind of tapped me on the shoulder, and I started researching. And so in 2019, we'll start there. As Cherie said, we launched our hemp farm. We moved from New York City, Brooklyn, New York, Bed-Stuy, to the middle of Salem, Illinois. It's in Southern Illinois. We had about an acre here where we grew 300 hemp plants for CBD. And so you can imagine that coming from Brooklyn, I was not already farming. And so when I say that it's all risk, then I mean that. It means that you will learn when you get there, but it doesn't mean not to take the step. And so from there, I realized that it's going to all go big or we're going to fail and end up back in Brooklyn. And that wasn't an option. And so I'd invite our members tonight to really ask yourself, where don't you have the courage to go big? You want to ensure that you go beyond what you can comprehend right now. That will be the pathway towards where you want to be. And so I'm living in Brooklyn, calling myself a hemp farmer. I had to get to a farm. That was my first landing. And so I had the courage to move and make that happen. But when we got there, we experienced a failure. And in our case, our land deal fell through. So moved our whole lives, we get to the place you thought you had it going, and then you fail. But what do I say here? That failure will make it clear where the gaps are. And so it was clear to me at that time that I had to look for more land. It doesn't mean turn back on the dream. I'd already left and unpacked. And so this is the shot of the property that we purchased. Lake Placid is Missouri's first Black resort. So on the left, you see the resort property, and on the right, you see an outline of our 244 acres. And so the question becomes, how are you going to turn 244 acres into a hemp farm? And once you realize that you have more than enough room beyond the hemp farm, then my job is to realize, oh, I don't know what this is going to be yet. I have no idea what this land is for. And so communities like this, I am here to share with you that even in the uncertainty of it all, I can sit in front of you now and say, we march forth anyway. And so we looked into the history of our project. Cherie highlighted this, but we found out that Lake Placid is actually founded by Dr. P.C. Turner, a Black resort that he dreamt up in 1934. And Dr. Turner envisioned this land as more for his personal use. He saw that in 1934, that's a typo there, 96 acres of land were to be used and set aside for a lake, a dam, a golf course, and a park. Now, Black people, we talking about middle Missouri in the heart of depression, a Black man talking about a Martha's Vineyard of the Midwest. How are we going to do that? What you have to have a vision beyond what you can see right now. And so 88 years later, when Brendolyn shows up to the property, I found this part of the vision and I say, why not? Why can't we have a golf course here? Why can't we expand the lake and the dam and have a park? And why can't we see this as an opportunity for Black people to have rest and restoration, just like PC Turner saw? So this is our shot on the property after we closed it. We got the Lake Placid sign on the left and just the cry for freedom on the right, I like to call it. You know, just that moment you're standing on your own property, realizing how you got there. And so how did we get there? Well, the first is in unlearning my poverty mindset, we remember that in our community, unlocking wealth is through cooperative economics. We have to rely on the people that we love and let them know about our projects that might be bigger than what they may imagine. And so what we're doing right now is we're spending 2 years informing our community of what we're up to. We're not racing to get anywhere. We're already there. We own the property. And so what does the community want to do? How do Black people want to rest? How do Black people want to retreat? And so building with community is the heart of our project. Final turn here, when you're looking to fund a project like this, in my case, I got to the closing table and realized I was $40,000 short. It was not kind of like a last minute realization. It was just a trust in my banking relationship that it was going to work out. I was going to have a mortgage that was going to stretch to something. And, you know, it quite didn't add up. And so I realized I don't have an ask of $40,000. I actually am an offer. And if you're familiar with Dr. Pamela Jolly's work, she talks about how Black people, we are the worth. We were the first on the ledger line of the United States. And so I just put an example here for everyone. Instead of me saying, hey, do you have $40,000 to help me with the bill that I have? It's instead, I have a gap to fill because I'm going for something big. Would you like to invest in me? And from that mindset, you have bidders who say, yeah, I got 10, I got 5, I got 2, I got 1. It's all the way that you frame it. So you are the offer, you are the worth. Go to your communities with the offer that you have. You're not asking. And finally, because I am continuing to learn this, as we unlearn the poverty mindset, I just like to ask everybody to add 30%. You've never done this before. So your numbers, you know, you may think it takes this plus this plus this to equal, you know, your monthly expenses or whatever you see in your new project, but you're only going to go as far as you can see. So you may as well add some padding. So in my case, that $40,000 helped us close the property. And then the very next bill that I got was a $15,000 land survey that I didn't raise money for. And so you kind of get to these stops along the way that you never would have thought of, obviously, because you've never done this before. So at 30%, that's the math that I'm giving everyone. And I'll pause there, Cherie, just for the sake of space. Thanks for listening.
Absolutely. Look, that was amazing. I'm glad you told the story about you being short at the closing tape, because I was going to make sure that you had mentioned that as well, and how it still all turned out and closed. Tawana is dying to ask you questions, so let's hear it, Tawana.
Oh, first of all, congratulations. Right? Such a big deal. What are some of the things you look for when you buy 244 acres of land? Like, what's some of the criteria? That amount of land would scare me away from it, because especially not already having something in mind for it. What do you look for?
So as an executive coach, I was really out to create retreats. That was kind of as far as my mind had kind of, living in the city, you don't really have a lot of examples. And so you think, all right, I just want something scenic. But then you realize you got to get more specific. So if you're someone who's looking for a water source, then you need a pond or a lake or a well. One of those 3 things has got to be there. You likely will need electricity because you want to go off the grid, but at first you need to get how you're going to plug your generator up to be able to go off the grid. And so electric and water are really critical issues as you're looking for land. And tactically, you need a little 2x2 to drive around these properties. You go visit 30, 40, 50 acres, you're only going to walk less than an acre. You're not going to really be able to see all of the edges. And so I look at those as the foundational ways to actually just go out and seek and visit land.
Very good, very good. And so retreats. So talk to me about retreats. So we actually had a founder on one of our Bet on Black pitch founders 2 weeks ago, who is raising capital. He's building a retreat right now in Texas. And his retreat is focused on kind of the tiny home camping experience. What kind of retreat experience are you wanting to share with the public?
You know, I'm in a lot of conversations with people who want to launch retreats, and I always ask us to look at ourselves. Like, what is it about me that would have me just wake up every day and still want to do that? And so when I think of retreats, I think of, first of all, a break from the day-to-day rat race that we all could get caught up in, even if we're entrepreneurs. So a place to just read a book, a quiet place to just have good 12 hours of sleep. Like silence is what I think about when I think retreats. The other part is community. You know, a lot of this is contingent upon, can you get people to get to your property? And so where's the community coming from? We feel so blessed that we're a new member of a community that's been around for nearly 90 years. We got the owners that are there who are 60 plus, 70 plus, letting us know, keep the history going, and we want this place to be livable for us. We want the help to revitalize. And so, Tawana, when I think of listening to baby boomers, what do they need in a retreat? How does retreat look like for 60 and up? This is not just for me and my peers. Right. And so, how do you stay active over 60? How do you make sure you get to your recreational facilities, whether it be hiking, fishing, hunting, some of the revenue streams that we're launching on the property?
Very good. I think my final question is, when we go to the website, reparationsproject40.com, what kind of information is there for us, and what are you expecting people, what's the call to action when we go to that website?
Thank you. Yeah, we're at the point where it's like a go tell it on a mountain kind of time. We really just want people to share that there is a project out here, a reparations project, where we believe this group of people, Black people in 1934, they deserve to have this retreat that they envisioned nearly 88 years ago. And so I'd like you to click the button, watch now. And I've actually, just for this period of time, put the password on our virtual fundraiser that we launched last year. It's about 57 minutes of beautiful footage of the property, songs from friends in my community, jazz pianists, the history of the lake, some interviews that we ran into people to do, and just get the culture of this part of Missouri, really feel it, because when we ask for donations, we're coming hard and we're asking. So right now, just learn up on it, get familiar. And we're happy to also talk more about hemp, because we see industrial hemp as a key feature in rebuilding this resort. If you don't know it already, you can build homes with hemp. So that could be another conversation, but that's a huge part of what we're bringing to Lake Placid.
Wonderful. And I said that was my last question, but I told a fib. One more question. So, we are an investment community, right? And so when I hear about amazing projects like yours, and I want to support, selfishly, I think about investment opportunity versus donation. Mm-hmm. Do you ever see an opportunity for investments where, a little equity is at play for the community?
We do. And we know that once people kind of get on board now, get a piece of the story, donate $5, $10 right now, that, we will be offering that. We see that actually launching June of next year, a crowdfunding opportunity where we will be offering folks different ways to pitch into reparations projects where your family will reap the benefits, and also your children. We have a lot of projects around children investing as well.
Wonderful. Well, we hope you come back to the 10K and pitch to this community when that's ready to go.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brenda Lynn.
So I will ask a question as well, because you and I talked about this, Brenda Lynn, when we talked before. You also talk with people about how they can buy their own land and monetize it as well, right?
People often have those questions for me. I don't do that as part of my gig, but I feel like we've seen enough property where our failures can teach others. Yes.
Yeah. So, because I think that that's important. You had mentioned when you were talking about the fact that the 60 and 70-year-olds are talking to you saying, hey, can you just please like keep the dream alive? And the first thing I thought was, well, if their children don't want the land, then we interviewed somebody when we first started the 10K project that said that Black farmers are losing like something like 30,000 acres of land a
Yeah,
year, or
a
something
year.
like that.
Mhm.
And the first thing we thought was, how can we stop the hemorrhaging?
Mhm.
Because now we're starting to see where Black people cannot buy property, and there's going to be a time where if you don't already own it, if your family doesn't already own it, it's going to be very difficult for you to buy a house, right? So it would be interesting for us to have those conversations about, okay, this elderly person has passed on, their family doesn't want it. How can we, doing cooperative economics, set it up so that at least it goes to other Black hands instead of reverting back, to other ethnicities? And there are a lot of foreign buyers as well that are gobbling everything up that they possibly can.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
I think one thing I will say there is that the price tag is never the final tag. And so, that in farming has just taught us a lot. You're going to get a lot of sticker shock right now. We got mortgage primes just shifted the top of November, got interest rates moving. And so, people's prices are going to look different. And honestly, I was a little sticker shock for ours as well. And this was in Black hands. This was owned by a Black family. And so as Black people, just notice even myself not wanting to make an offer lower than their price tag. What does that look like? But when you know that, again, Dr. Pamela Jolly, that you are the wealth, you are the worth, then you know that whatever you acquire it for, you're going to invest and leverage and grow that larger than you can foresee. And then, Cherie, I think to the other point of cropland, we are going to position ourselves living in rural Missouri. We think there is an opportunity for us to be at the local farm bureaus doing presentations to white farmers about how they can start unlearning the controlling ways that they have around land. And I think we need to be those messengers in those small towns. And so you can count on us to be doing that.
I'm so glad to hear that. And Miss Vivian put in, her name is Jillian Hishaw, Esquire, of the agriculture woman that came from farms. That's the acronym for the name of the organization. Thanks, Miss Vivian.
Good memory, Miss Vivian.
Yeah, either that or she looked it up. I don't know. But let's bring in Tiffany. Hello.
Hey, how are you all doing?
Doing well, thank you. Doing well. So, you have an interesting story that you actually were a teenage mom, and you went from an aspiring chef to community college business student. You were in corporate America, you had the golden handcuffs on you, and you decided to break free from all of that and come to the other side of entrepreneurship. So welcome.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell everybody, again, about 8 minutes, tell everybody a little bit about your story, like how you did it, and then move us to like how you got to the 8 streams of income that you have.
Yeah. Yes. So thank you so much for having me, first of all. But yeah, you pretty much gave it in a nutshell. So I'll kind of go into a little detail here. So starting out, so I remember being as young as like 5 and having my own business. And that business was called Tiffany's Cafe. And so my first lesson was hire out whatever you can't do. And so I couldn't cook. So what I would do is I would go to my grandma, ask her what she was making for dinner. And then I would go type up a menu and hand it out at dinner time. And that was my very first business. And so I would serve everyone, go back, get the plates, clean up, and then come around with my piggy bank. And, at that time, 10, 20 cents for some rice and chicken, my family would happily pay that. And for me, it was kind of a big deal. so I've always had this business mindset. And that's why I tell people it doesn't matter what you love to do, there's someone out there willing to pay you for it. So as life goes on, I remember my next business was buying and selling books on Amazon. That was in 7th grade because I love to read. And my mom was like, well, look, Tiffany, you're getting expensive with the books. So I was like, okay, how can I fund my reading habit? And so I started, after she made her investment. So that was my second lesson. You may need investors sometimes. And so when my mom made her final investment in me, I said, okay, I have to make this stretch. And so what I would do is get books off of Amazon, sell them back used to people on Amazon, and then use that money to buy the next one. And so that was my little hustle then. Then fast forward a little more, and I'm skipping around a little bit because I've had multiple different things going on. But skip ahead. At 16, I started a cheesecake business because, like she said, I wanted to be a chef my entire life. That's all I wanted to do. And so I was like, okay, I know I can make really good cheesecakes. So let me go ahead and see if the job at the time would allow me to bring in samples. So that way I can get people to taste my samples and start selling cheesecakes. And that was my third lesson in life, was to always ask, because you never know. And if you don't ask, you don't know if the answer is going to be yes. And so I asked my manager. He said, sure, Tiffany, absolutely, bring that in. And I was like, cool. So at first it started with just the staff and I would pass it around. And then he allowed me to actually put it in front of the customers too. So I'm so grateful for that opportunity. Then fast forward a little more. So at that time, I had a car as well. And mind you, I'm working at CVS, $7 an hour job, part-time, because I'm still in high school. And my mom says, well, since you have a job now, you can go ahead and pay for your car. So imagine me having to take that little part-time $7 an hour check and make it last. So I started getting into couponing and saving money. And so I was one of those extreme couponers at 16 where I would go buy a whole grocery cart full of stuff for like $20. And people would look at me like, oh my gosh, like, what is wrong with this child? But I was so interested in saving money and making sure that my money could stretch. All right. So then fast forward 17, I got accepted into Johnson & Wales, which is a culinary school. I was super excited. And then a week later, I found out I was pregnant with my first son. So I was like, okay, I cannot go to Johnson & Wales, which is about 2 hours away from where I live. I'm going to have to figure out something else to do. So I said, you know what? I know business, because business has always been a recurring theme in my life. And so I went up to the local community college, went ahead and applied for their business program. And honestly, the lady, my advisor, she was like, what are you doing here? Because she's like, your grades are so good. Like, what are you doing here at the community college? And I was like, well, this is the situation. It's too late to apply anywhere else. So I'm just going to go this route. So I ended up enrolling in community college, did 2 years there, then transferred to a university, finished out my bachelor's, and then I finished out my master's. And so I have a master's degree in business as well. Now, during that time, because I have 2 kids now, so I have a 13 and an 8-year-old. So during that time, I was working 2 jobs. I was going to school. I was driving Uber and Lyft. Like, I was just hustling my butt off because I wanted to make sure that I could provide for my kids, but also get started on my debt-free journey. And so I had a goal back then to be debt-free by 30. No, I did not make it because I'm 31 now, but it's okay. I made a lot of headway during that time. I think in like 2 years, I had paid off $50,000 in debt. And that was when I was making like $11, $12 per job, an hour. And so that's why I tell people it's always possible. You just have to figure out a plan, because once you have a plan, then you can do it. And so fast forward 2017, I started my business, which is Money Talk with Tiff. And at that time, I was working in corporate America and HR. So that's my corporate background is HR. And don't get me wrong, I love HR. HR is fun, but I had more fun doing personal finance. So I would get off from my job and then I would be blogging or, doing my social media thing and have to pull myself off the computer. And that's when I realized, okay, Tiffany, this is what you have been called to do. So 2017, I started that. Then in 2019, I went full-time doing this and also started my podcast. And then fast forward to today, now it's, I've been able to sustain throughout COVID and everything else going on in the world. And also I focus on Black and Brown communities. So my goal is to be that representation and be that voice for us. And it just warms my heart seeing how there's so many of us now doing this and spreading good information because as you all know, TikTok can be the devil sometimes. Mm-hmm. Some of this stuff is not accurate, but luckily there's a lot of us that are giving out accurate information, and I'm glad to be one of them. And so I have my accredited financial counselor certification. So I just got that last year because I was like, I don't know. I think I'm addicted to ABC soup. But, I feel like it did give me some of the tools that I needed to better serve my clients. And so that's what I'm doing now. And that's kind of how it started. So I just provide financial education, trying to get our community, Black and Brown communities, more financially educated, because that's where it all starts. Like, it's fine to, have money, but if you don't know how to manage it, then it's like you don't have it anyway. So just trying to get us to keep more of our money and use it smartly.
Wow, what a journey. Congratulations. What a journey. I just have to say that, it's funny because some of your story is my story, right? I was a young mom, corporate America, 30 years HR. So it is fun sometimes, but sometimes it's not, right? I started my entrepreneurship journey later in life. And so my heart warms for you for being brave enough, right? At 31 for making that decision a lot sooner in your career, not letting that corporate life kind of, what did she call it? Golden handcuffs, what did she call it? Like, keep you trapped.
That was in Tiffany's bio. I didn't.
Okay. Longer than necessary. So, congratulations to you for that. I mean, you truly just now got added to my hero book. I love to see young women going out there and being brave. I wish I had that bravery when I was 30, right? I didn't get brave until a little later, but I'm full force in brave mode right now. So congratulations on that. I want to know about the 8 streams of income.
Yes. And to kind of piggyback off what you just said on being brave, what gave me that confidence was knowing my numbers. So once I knew what my numbers were and I was budgeting and, doing all that good stuff, I was at the point at that time where I was like, okay, if I make $50 a day, I can pay all my bills and be good. And so when I broke it down like that, I'm like, well, wait a minute,
and
$50.
That's doable.
Yeah, I'm like
$50 a day. Like,
we always talk about that. We always talk about stop looking at it like this big beast. Break it down to something manageable and palatable and something that you believe you can do. And that's the first step. So I love that you just said that.
Yes. So $50 a day, I said I could drive Uber and Lyft for like 2 hours and have the rest of the day to work on my business. So that was my thought process at the time. And that's what worked out for me. But anyway, to answer your question, yes. So with Money Talk with Tiff, it started as a blog. Okay. So I was just putting information out there because family and friends would always come to me about money and they knew that I knew what I was talking about. So I was like, if one person has the question, there's probably multiple people with this question. Let me just put it on the World Wide Web. Okay. So I never thought that it would grow to what it is now. I just was like, okay, if it's one person that reads the blog, I'm happy. If I change one trajectory, I'm happy. But I never thought that it would become a whole business. So to get into your question about the streams of income. So under the Money Talk with Tiff umbrella, I still have the blog, I still have the podcast, but most of my money comes from speaking. So I do a lot of speaking now to different groups, different corporations, things like that. I actually have a speaking engagement tomorrow. And then I also do freelance writing. So this is something that a lot of people don't know about, but this is a great stream of income if you love writing, which is funny. When I found out about it, I'm like, I've been writing for my blog for free. Like, people actually pay for this. So what it is different corporations. So like Wall Street Journal, I don't know, name it, money.com, all of those hire freelance writers. And so I got into the freelance writing game. Now, that's not a big portion of my income because I want to keep it manageable, but I have friends that all they do is freelance write and they're making 10,000 plus a month just from writing. So it's definitely a good stream of income if you like writing. I also do counseling. So using my accredited financial counselor, I take one-on-one clients. I also do groups. And then also I do ads on the blog. Now I just stopped that one to, kind of make the user experience a little better, but that was another way I was getting income. Swag, so selling shirts. So I have a whole brand of Money Talk with Tiff shirts that say little clever things. Like I just released one actually this week that says grateful for my therapist and hashtag therapy matters, because that's another thing that we don't talk a lot about in our community. Usually money and mental health are taboo topics. So I talk a lot about how I love therapy and how the mental aspect of money is super important. So that's a new shirt that I just came out with. But swag, courses. I actually have 2 courses available. One is on digital marketing and one is on budgeting. So those 2 things I realized that I'm an expert in. So with the digital marketing side, that's how I built my business. I built it from social media. I built it from blogging. I built it from podcasting and all that good stuff. So I'm like, why not teach that to other business owners and other people as well? Then also I have an upcoming book. So I've been working on that book for a couple of years now. So I'm hoping I can release it next year. But I also do pre-sales for that. I have brand partnerships. So sometimes brands might reach out, and depending on if we align, because that is very important, I'm like, I work hard for my audience. I work very, very hard. So I treat it as such. And so I have, specifications and stuff for that type of stuff. But brands do reach out. And so sometimes they might sponsor a podcast or they might ask me to do some social media stuff. And so I have brand partnerships. Now that's 8. But I have some augmentation here because since that interview, I've done a few more things. So another thing that I've learned, so if there are any bloggers out there, you can actually charge people to put links on your blog if your domain authority is high enough. So being that I've worked so hard on my blog and my SEO and stuff, I'm able to rank. So I rank number 1 for certain keywords like entrepreneurial businesses and things like that. And so there are people reaching out to me constantly like, Tiffany, can I put a link on your site? Can I put a link? Because they want to piggyback off of that. And I didn't know that you could monetize that until I had my marketing team, do that for me. And so that's another way that you can make money. Also, I now do small business consulting. So I realized just this year that business is my trade, right? So that's what I've gone to school for. That's what I have perfected. I love business. I have had multiple businesses over the course of my life. During COVID, I was actually highlighted on CNBC because I had 6 different businesses going at the same time, which was very hectic. Do not recommend, but it was good for the time because it did help me get over the COVID hump. So now I do small business consulting. So I help other small businesses figure out things like structure, taxes, getting just set up the right way. Because a lot of times that's what takes small businesses in Black and Brown communities out, is not having their stuff set up the right way. And so I kind of walk them through that. And then also I do digital marketing consulting and management. So if there's someone out there that's struggling with, their internet presence, their digital marketing, that's something that now my team that I've built up over the years, we take on for people and we help them with. So those are the different things that I do now, all under the Money Talk with Tiff umbrella.
Wow.
I'm tired. Wow. I just wrote the list and I'm like, I'm tired.
I am in awe.
Not that bad, I promise.
Wow. That's what's up. We need a link on that website we need the link. We definitely need the 10K link on your website.
One thing, Tawana,
so
before
Cherie
you
will
talk.
be in touch.
Everybody on YouTube, I see 22 people watching. We got 13 likes. I need my likes, please. That way YouTube can bless us. All right, Tawana, thank you.
No, this is good. We've got a question. Elizabeth says Tiffany, Elizabeth wants you to put your contact information in the chat.
Yes, I can do that.
I know, Tammy. Wow, right?
Yeah, it sounds like a lot, but honestly, it's not too bad. And that's because, like I said, delegation, right? And so I built this up, over time, but as I built it up, I hired people to help me, take me along the way. And so that's another thing I would highly recommend for small business owners as well. Don't keep trying to do it alone. You will be greatly served by hiring help. And so one of my first hires was a podcast editor, because I realized that editing my podcast was what was keeping me from being consistent. And so I didn't like editing. And so I'm like, if I farm this out, now I can be consistent. And that's what happened. So now I'm consistent with the podcast. Matter of fact, we just went to 4 times a week releases, which people are like, woo. But, when you have the team set up, it's not that bad. And what that did for us was we were able to grow, I want to say like 5x this year, just by being consistent. So highly recommend hiring help when you can, as soon as you can.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. Cherie used to do this really cool podcast for us, because this is year 4 for us, right? I think year 1, Cherie did this really cool podcast, and it was taking you like 6 hours to edit it or something crazy like that.
It was 2.5 hours. It was just too much time. Yeah, in my day, but I miss it. And every once in a while, somebody will ask me about it as well, because it was like hot economic topics of the day. Like there's no Black CNBC where we could kind of get, like, here's what's happening overall. Here's a couple of little things for us specifically, So yeah.
Yes, so that's proof right there. So definitely because think about it. Anything you don't like to do, there's somebody out there that loves to do it. So like, for instance, my podcast editor, he takes half, maybe a third of the time it would take me to do it, because he does it all day, every day. And that's what he likes to do. I hire a cleaning lady. Why? Because I don't like cleaning, but she loves it. This is what brings her joy. So it's like, if there's people out there, which is something for everything. If there's people out there willing to help you and it brings them joy and also helps their business, then why not?
Yeah. And sometimes it's about stepping out on faith as well, and being able to say, okay, I know it's going to be really tight for the first few months, but like you said, you 5x your business. Talk to us a little bit about that as well, like the process of bringing people on and then seeing the expansion in your business.
Yes. So for a long time, and sometimes this happens to me even today, right? When I'm thinking about bringing on someone new, but for a long time, I didn't do it because I was like, well, I don't want to hire someone and then I not be able to afford them. And then I'm gonna have to let them go. But it never happened. So it was all in my head, going into this process in my head. I was like, well, if I hire someone, I might not make enough and, this, that, and the other, but I've never had an issue paying payroll. And so, sometimes you just have to think outside of what you tell yourself and watch yourself talk. And sometimes I have to remind myself, because I need help in other areas now where I'm like, should I do that? But I have noticed that with the help, so like now I have a social media manager, I have a podcast editor, I have someone else that helps with the podcast just because it's a huge job. And now I'm looking for like a VA, that type of position, and a salesperson. So that's one regret that I have. And I'm not going to say,
did you all hear that? She's looking for help. I know some of you are looking for side hustles, especially during this economic time. et cetera, et cetera. So repeat what you need again, Tiff.
Yeah, so I need a VA, so a virtual assistant to help me with emails, mainly, and then also a salesperson. That's one thing that I've learned here recently is that I'm not a salesperson really. Like I'm great at marketing. Marketing, I got that down pat, especially digital marketing. But when it comes to sales and making closings, that's not really my thing. And so I bought a book from the library, reading podcasts, listening to Audible, trying to get sales stuff down pat. And I just realized it just doesn't interest me. And I'm like, this is something that I just need to go ahead and farm out because it's not fun for me. And if I do take on that, then it's not going to be productive. So a salesperson would be fantastic. So those are the two things that I'm looking for right now.
And how does somebody get in touch with you if they want to do either of those things? What's the best way for them to?
Yeah, so on the website, if you go to the Contact Us form, just put in your inquiry there, say that you're interested in the VA position or interested in the sales position, and I would be more than happy to look over your resume and see if you would be a good fit.
Yeah. So I want to bring Brendolyn back into the conversation because Brendolyn said that she would talk to us a little bit about monetizing land. So I know you had talked about that a little bit before with like your hemp farm and the retreat, but I know that you have other ideas as well with regards to how people can actually monetize their land. So I want to give you a chance to talk about that.
Yeah, thank you. I think coming from our city mindsets, I think we skip over a lot of opportunities when it comes to how to bridge the gap from kind of, rural experiences to city experiences. And I think it's very easy to step over one that feels very obvious, but just, hiking in the woods, nature is a revenue stream for a lot of landowners. Now, once you go towards recreation, there are other things you can do there. You can certainly have a park, have picnic tables. You can have people just pay you day rates to come. It's private property. Like Placid is not a public tourism, thing where you just stop by. And so, what does it look like to have people come to take a breath, be outside for a few hours, kind of have that routine. There are a lot of families who bought trailers and hitches and, all the buses that people have. And so just being able to try those out, really encouraging folks to say, hey, come practice camping. Come practice pulling your RV up. What does it feel like to use it, to hitch it? And that goes the same for hunting. There is a community of hunters in the Black community that, sometimes our city minds, we forget this. But when you go into rural communities, for instance, kids get off on Fridays in some towns because it's hunting season. That's the reason why they're off from school. And their fathers and their mothers, what are they talking about at church on Sundays? How big of a deer or an ox they got, how big of a bow that they got, a doe, I did it via archery or it was firearms. Our land can be used for experiences like that. What does it look like to practice shooting? Again, guns is a large conversation in our society, but when you put the rural America lens on it, rifle season, hunting season, gates are open, and
Right.
So what does it look like for our communities to have those kind of experiences? And those are some of the ways that we're thinking about bringing people to the land.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. So I'm a camper. I love the outdoors. And we went in August. We're part of this group, Melanated Campout. And so a group of Black women, started by 3 Black women, but a group of Black people. There had to be like 300, maybe even 400 families. And we went to this Black-owned retreat space in Wrightsville, Georgia, for a long weekend in August. And it was amazing, right? And I think they had less than 244 acres, right? I think they had a 4-acre pond, but I feel like they only probably had about 100 or so acres. But amazing time. I mean, there are a lot of Black people who love the outdoors. I'm a member of several different groups And you'd be surprised. I'm a city girl too, so I'm a Bronx girl. So taking a Bronx girl and put her at camping, and I like to camp. I like people look at me like, really, you? I'm like, really? There's multiple sides to me. I like to play in the mud, and then I like to get dressed up. But there are more people out there than you know that are doing that, looking for those experiences. And some of them like a little more luxury, like the glamping, right? Some people don't want to pitch their own tent. So being able to have different areas, right, for the different personalities in one space is helpful as well. Because I have family members that don't necessarily want to rough it like I want to rough it. And sometimes I don't want to rough it, right? And so we can still go together, but be separate. That's also a really cool advantage. We did some RVing during COVID. I travel a lot, and our travel agent was like, we got to go somewhere, right? And so she organized, and shout out to Travel with Sparkle. She is a 10K project member. But she was like, let's go RVing. So we all rented RVs, and we drove up to Niagara Falls in our RVs and had the best time. But some of us were not okay in the RVs. And so the campsite we were at had some cottages. And so some people were like, we're going to meet y'all up there. We're going to get in the cottage. But it's just having the option to do all of those things, because Black people love the outdoors too. We're just not as, you don't hear about it as much. And I think that's going to change. I think we're going to see more of us in these spaces. And as more Black people buy land and build these retreats for us, we're going to normalize being able to get out there and explore this area of recreation. So thank you in advance for doing something like this. I know once you get up and running, I'm coming.
Yes. And I appreciate let's also bring in, our feelings on rest and taking space and naps and, and what does it look like to also feel safe in rural environments, to not feel like you're, being hunted literally. And so that is something that's important to us. But I also want to remember that we have folks who have been formerly incarcerated that need space to sort out their lives. We have people who have been through traumatic events, school shootings. Here in St. Louis, we just had, a school shooting here, and, it's right up the block for me. And I'm thinking, I got 244 acres. What does it look like to just bring the kids out? Just bring your lunch, bring the kids out, run, just let that go. And so, these are all things that we're planning intentionally. This stuff's not easy. You can't just whip it up and come up with something. There's liability, branches fall, all of that. But yeah, let's use the space that we need as people of color to have our best thinking, our most creativity come out of it on the other side.
Yeah, I was going to do a business plan once for this group that had also purchased some land. And they were talking about leasing a part of their land to different farmers as well. I know that that's really huge. And the farmers work the land and they, pay whatever the monthly rent is with regards to that. So Vivian is asking the question to you, Brendolyn. Even though the land you purchased is valuable, what is on the land that you can sell or use as a memory to sell to assist you in the fundraising? She's saying here, being creative is a plus. Remember, history comes with the land.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think there are, in the lot community that I showed you, there's a lot of dilapidation there. And some of it you might want to leave because it actually brings value to a tour, to be able to show what this location was. I think that's more of a conversation for the entire community of Lake Placid. I'm very cognizant that I am their backyard. We're offering options for them to come rest and retreat, and we've got to listen to what the community wants to do in terms of saving artifacts and things like that. But I will share with you that we are excited to be rolling out, and Tawana, this is going to excite you, but when we do our launching, our crowdfunding, right now we're in the planning of the different tiers and the incentives per tier. And it's just a fun exercise to go through to say, if you give 100, what do you get? 500, what do you get? 2,500, what do you get? And, signage is a huge thing in rural communities, benches and holes and, things where your family can come and touch and say, wow, this is like, so-and-so's plot in our family. And so we're excited to be in a lot of naming rights. It's important for us to have that kind of legacy told.
Yeah, we have a couple of different comments here. Dr. Virginia's in YouTube for Brindlin, saying, I am an educator, and that is an excellent idea to have the students come to your land after traumatic events. So much healing can take place. Also here in Zoom, Tammy is saying it would be nice if you could collaborate with Restflix. So Restflix was one of our Bet on Black pitch presenters. So Tammy, great idea. I'm sure if Brindlin wants to do that, then Tawana will definitely connect you there. You have a lot of people saying that they love the melanated camp out. So, Tawana, people are probably going to be talking with you about that. And other people want to come as well, both in Facebook and YouTube. So we have Beulah here. I hope I'm going to make this comment correctly. She said here, Oprah did a show on how we can use the national park. Mm-hmm. She and Gail went.
They went camping and they invited us. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And invited.
That's where I learned about Moscow mules. They made, made a Moscow mule when they went camping. And Gail and Oprah, yeah, they took us with them on an overnight camp trip. This was years ago, and showed us the outdoors. They went to several of the different national parks. They kind of did a tour to kind of get Black people to embrace the outdoors. I'm part of another group. It's called, oh gosh, I just went blank. Outdoor Afro. And their founder and CEO just did something, I think last year with Oprah also. So Oprah is a big proponent of Black people exploring outdoors.
Yeah, and I would say, what we're trying to bridge is, and this is for Cherie, we were talking about this, people say, oh yeah, I got a plot of land, like, oh, my family has a plot of land. You don't have to wait till all the structures are in place there. You do, as Tawana said, you've got people out there who are like ready to practice using their outdoor toilet. They're ready to practice sleeping outside next to, a river and filtration and practicing all that. Let those people come onto your land in a safe place, and they can have it all to themselves and light the fires that they want to try, and just practicing being in nature before you've got latrines and buildings and glamping. There's a pathway there, so we don't.
And you just said the key word, Brindlin, feel safe. I shared when we had the founder come on a couple of weeks ago, I shared that I went camping with a company and realized it was in a sundown town. And we didn't realize it until it was way too late to do anything about it. But we knew something was up. We went out to get some supplies, and we were like, we always look different. So that wasn't it, but it was how they received us. That wasn't comforting. And I don't know, it may have been the second night. We were there for 4 nights. The second night, somebody said, I wonder what kind of place this is. Like, what do they have going on here? And we Googled and realized it was a sundown town. And so obviously we were never completely comfortable because of how they received us. But of course, then the rest of the time, we didn't feel safe at all, and even considered packing up and leaving. Even though there were no incidences, we just didn't feel safe. The mood completely changed, right? We were so excited and enthusiastic, and then we weren't. And so to know that you can come to an outdoor space that is going to be safe for you is huge in a camping community.
And I love that, because I think the other side of it, as Black people moving into rural communities, in a way, I'm a gentrifier, in a way, here I am, the only Black person on Main Street saying, hey, but I think part of our message too, especially with the Lake Placid project, is kids and families from Morgan County, Missouri should feel proud that in 1934, Black people felt safe enough to come to this county and create over 350 acres of excellence. And so, let's make sure they get the pride in the local community as well, because we're going to tout it. We're going to be screaming it to the high heavens, go tell one, go tell all. But the local residents should be a part of this. They should feel, yes, right there in our backyard, there is a Black resort so many years ago. We want that message to be coming from them too.
Yeah, wonderful.
We have a couple of other questions in here as well. Well, Beulah has a comment. Oprah also supports gardening and eating the food we grow. I'm trying to start my garden next year in 2023. So Jesse is saying to Brenda, can you explore the use of drones for scouring and monitoring the 244 acres? Can you sponsor drone technology boot camps to help Black people get certified in this growing tech sector? Consider marketing land is available for motion picture location use as well. See Missouri Film Commission to register. So I think those are a couple of great suggestions for you.
Yes, I will say the trip that had my partner and I realized that there was money in land as we went to New Zealand and we visited Hobbiton, where kind of the Lord of the Rings and all of that whole set is. And the family will tell you that they manicured their land for motion picture. And after they were rented out a couple seasons, they said, why don't we set up a tour here? So globally, you have people now visiting Hobbiton. They just left their set there. And so, yes, we're thinking about things like that. I personally want to be a place where Foley artists can go. If you're familiar with when you watch movies, there's sound effects that you're hearing, but there are people actually doing some of those sound effects with their feet and in the water and splashing. I think some of the artifacts on the land, the woman who said it earlier, I want to be saving things that make different sounds, and how do we use nature's audio from the view of Black nature inside of movies. So yeah, we definitely see ourselves there. Thank you for that suggestion.
All right, well, I have very excited dogs, so I'm gonna go and see what they are up to. But Tiffany, it was great having both of you here. I don't see any more questions in the chat or the Q&A or on social media. But why don't we, unless you had another question, why don't we?
No, I just want to, I don't have another question, but I just want to remind everyone, we've put Tiffany and Brendalin's information in the chat. So Tiffany's website is moneytalkwitht.com. And then Brendalin was reparationsproject40.com. So please visit both of those sites and learn some more information. And please consider donating to Brendalin's project as well.
Absolutely. Tiffany, we want to give you a chance to make any final comments you have.
Sure. So, if you didn't take anything else from everything that we discussed tonight, step outside of fear. That is my biggest thing. And that's what I tell people. I live by a quote, and it's everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear. And so anytime I feel fearful of something, I'm like, okay, that's something I need to try because you never know. It might be the best decision of your life, or it could be the biggest lesson you'll ever learn. But at the end of the day, and like Brendalin said, fail early and fail often. So I think those would be kind of the key takeaways from this entire conversation, because that's something apparently me and Brendalin share in common, is that we step outside of fear. And then also I would just add, please check out my podcast. It's Money Talk with Tiff. And it's pretty much, the premise of it is the way out of poverty is ideas. So the more ideas I can spread, kind of like you've heard a few of them here on different ways that you can make money, I try to spread as many as possible, because that could be somebody's ticket out of poverty. So please check that out. And that's all I have.
Okay. And Brendalin?
I appreciate the space and the time. And I think what I want to leave people with is that, the idea of Black wealth and generating generational wealth does start with those who are listening. That's us, the people. Your interest has to be there. Tiffany taught us this. If you got joy in building wealth, bring more joy to building wealth. Give us ideas, share ideas across. But when in doubt, ensure that your family can input at least $5, $10 into your project as well. Don't make it so large of a project that we isolate our communities. And so let's build wealth through cooperative economics. And I would say, let's go hard this Kwanzaa. You know, what does it look like to bet on Black as a actual principle this year?
Now, we have an important question in Facebook, and the only reason I'm going to point it out is because there may be some young people on here who do not know what a sundown town is. It didn't occur to me that somebody would not know what that was until someone in Facebook asked. So Tawana, just
so definitely Google it, and you can find they've got an organization did a great project on putting a list of sundown towns together across the country. I didn't know that obviously until we Googled. But it is a town historically where Black people needed to be in the house before the sun went down to prevent from being in danger. And so I'll leave it as simple as that.
Yeah, definitely do your research on it, but this is part of history. And this is where not necessarily critical race theory, but just some of the lessening of some of the historical things that have happened within America and American history. This is some of the dangers that we have of some of these things being taken out of classrooms. It's because it's important for not only us as Black people to know these things and to pass down that history, but for our counterparts to know these things as well. So that way, when they say, well, you aren't unprivileged and you're involuntary immigrants to this country, not slaves, you know, that we're able to say, no, that's incorrect. Here's the history of it, and be able to have young people speak with other young people and have that knowledge as well. So, you know, I wasn't going to bring this up, but the Supreme Court is, in my opinion, probably going to roll back the affirmative action with regards to college admissions, which means that we are going to be iced out of a lot of opportunities within Ivy League universities. And this is a very, it's very interesting time in American history. All the you know, moving forward that the 60s and 70s brought us, a lot of that stuff is being rolled back. So it's important for us to keep as much of our history as possible. And pass that stuff down, pass those traditions down to our kids and grandkids. So but I'm glad that, you know, in Facebook that you asked that question, so we would have a chance to educate people as well with regards to that.
And I just had one more thing to add on that line, because I do a lot of education around these types of things. So like redlining, sundown town, stuff like that. And every Monday night, so tonight at 9 p.m., I do a Twitter space, and it's called FINRA, and it's a space for Black money talk. And in that, me, along with a bunch of other personal finance creators, Black personal finance creators, we just have a roundtable about different topics. So like last week, we did the Black impoverished experience. So why is it that, you know, you have to be in poverty in order to be, you know, considered Black? And kind of today, we're kind of taking that conversation a step further as well. But we've talked about things like celebrity worship, and, you know, when all the Kanye and stuff was going on, we talked about that lens. So we talk about a lot of deep topics as it relates to our community. And fortunately, we do have counterparts that join us as well. And so it's an educational opportunity for everyone. And so I just wanted to throw that out there too, since you brought that up, because I was like, that is right in line.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love that. So if people want to get figure out where that is, where do they go again for the Twitter?
Yeah, so that's on Twitter. So if you follow me on Twitter at Money Talk with T, you'll see the link there for the Twitter space, and it's called FinNoir.
And we better hope that Elon doesn't do something with the algorithm, because he's been.
But let's just say less. Say less. We're not gonna do the Elon thing tonight. I don't have it in me. It's been a long day.
I've been on a whole rampage, especially with my HR hat. I've been on a whole rampage. So if you want to learn my thoughts, go to Twitter, because that's where I've been posting those. So yeah, I'm not going to get into.
You're putting your thoughts on Twitter about Twitter. Okay.
Well, what better place to do it?
He said free speech.
Yeah. Oh my. Yeah. Yeah.
Free-ish speech.
That's what he said was free speech. Yes.
Oh, goodness.
All righty, everybody. Well, thank you so much for being here this evening. We'll see you tomorrow night for the Bet on Black pitch. Wednesday night, Miss Beverly's class. We're on class number 5 of 6. And that is it. The10kproject.com if you want to be a member. Thank you so much. And don't forget to vote tomorrow if you have not voted early.
That's right. Vote, vote, vote.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, ladies. Good night.